I was barely done filling my brand new pool with its last blast of cold water when I heard it. Flip-flops smacking the pavement, loud chatter bouncing off driveways, and that unmistakable scrape of lawn chairs being dragged by people who were way too eager for a free dip. I looked up, and there she was, Karen, marching at the front of an army of 50, grinning like she just got crowned queen of the block. It would have been hilarious if it wasn't my property they were headed for. But let me tell you, the moment her hand hit my pool gate and she heard that heavy chain snap shut, her face did a 180. Wide-eyed, frozen, that parade of would-be guests left standing awkwardly behind her, clutching pool noodles and coolers. I leaned against the fence, arms folded, just watching the disbelief. You know that feeling when the air shifts and you just know? Yeah, that was it. The line had been drawn, and I knew right then. This summer was about to become a war nobody in the neighborhood would forget. That pool, it was my dream. Years of overtime, weekends patching up busted fences, mowing lawns for folks who never said thanks. Also, I could finally have my own patch of blue. The contractors finished laying the last tile just days before. Perfect stone deck, sleek pump. Even the fancy underwater lights I'd never admit cost extra. The first morning it was done, I sat out there with my coffee, watching sunlight ripple across the water. I felt good. Like maybe, finally, I'd made it. But across the street, Karen was already squinting down from her upstairs window, sizing up her next move like a hawk spotting a rabbit. And deep down, I should have known, she was about to try something. If you haven't met a Karen, count your blessings. She wasn't just nosy. She was a professional meddler, the type who acted like every driveway crack and flower pot was her business. The day before her failed invasion, she cornered me by the hedges, voice dripping with sugar. The pool looks amazing. I just know everyone will love using it, she said. I told her, flat out, it was private. My pool, not a community splash pad. She smirked. We'll see about that. At the time, I thought it was just her usual nonsense. Turns out, I underestimated how far she'd go. The next afternoon, the circus arrived. 50 people, beach towels, squirt guns, you name it, stomping down the sidewalk behind Karen, who waved like she was running for mayor. I swear, I could hardly believe it. Strangers were eyeing my fence like it was already theirs. Kids started splashing the fence with water guns. Some guy I'd never met was talking about firing up a grill on my lawn. It was so outrageous, I almost laughed. Instead, I walked to the gate, swung the chain across, and snapped the padlock shut. The metal clanged, and suddenly the crowd went quiet. Karen strutted up, all confidence. She tugged the gate. Nothing. What are you doing? She demanded. I just shrugged. You mean my pool? The one on my property? You're not invited. Her face turned scarlet. This is a community event. The HOA approved it. I actually laughed. One of those dry, can you believe this laughs. Karen, the HOA doesn't own this pool. I do. You can't just promise people a pool party at my place. Some folks started backing away, whispering. One guy muttered he wasn't getting arrested over a pool party. Karen kept rattling off excuses, saying that if you could see it from the street, it was fair game. I started recording on my phone. Go ahead, Karen. Tell them how you invited 50 people to trespass. A couple of teens started chanting, locked out, and the crowd started melting away, embarrassment beating out any loyalty to Karen. She wasn't done. She threatened to call the cops. Go for it, I said. Let's see what they say when 50 uninvited people show up on private property. The crowd turned on her. Nobody wanted that headache. By the end, her guests had bailed, but Karen stood her ground, seething. You'll regret this, she spat. I just pocketed my phone, waved, and walked back to my peaceful pool. Well, peaceful for now. The next morning, she was back. No crowd this time. Just her, arms folded tight, jaw clenched. She tore into me about being selfish, about community spirit, about how my pool should be everyone's. I let her ramble, because honestly, the longer she talked, the more ridiculous she sounded. When she finally paused, I set my coffee down and told her the truth. It's my land, my pool, my sweat that paid for every inch. She sneered, promised the whole neighborhood would side with her, and stormed off. That day, rumors spread like wildfire. Karen spun the story her way, told everyone I'd locked out children in the summer heat, that I was some kind of pool hoarder. Some folks just laughed it off. A few of her loyal gossips nodded along. I heard whispers about secret HOA rules and neighborhood covenants. It was wild how fast one person's drama could turn something so simple into a legal-sounding mystery. Then the flyers showed up. Karen printed them herself, accusing me of being a selfish neighbor, calling for a discussion. She even put a zoomed-in picture of my pool like it was a resort ad. I just shook my head. She was weaponizing public opinion now. The so-called discussion was basically a Karen press conference. She grandstanded about community values, luxury hoarding, the works. But when a neighbor, Dave, asked, "Is the pool actually on his property?" and I calmly held up my deed for everyone to see, her argument unraveled right there. Even a few in the crowd started to laugh, and Karen left sputtering about the HOA, vowing it wasn't over. Sure enough, a complaint from the HOA landed in my mailbox. Karen had claimed I'd built a shared amenity and demanded access for all dues-paying members. I called up Martin, the HOA president. Nice enough guy, always seemed fair. He rolled his eyes, looked at the paperwork, and told me not to worry. "She's relentless, but there's nothing there," he said. Still, he warned me. Karen was the type to keep escalating. He wasn't wrong. That same week, the police showed up, Karen waving them over like she'd finally won. The officers took one look at my deed, told her this was private property, and left. Her face, when they walked away, was pure fury. She doubled down, called the sheriff next, tried the same trick. But the sheriff had seen enough. He warned her to stop filing false reports or she'd be the one in trouble. The neighbors started to catch on, too. Phones out, recording, quiet laughter rippling through the crowd. That was when Karen snapped. She started sneaking around at night, caught on my cameras trying to climb the fence, tugging at the lock. I printed a still from the footage, taped it to her mailbox, smile for the cameras. After that, she ramped up the insanity. More flyers, anonymous letters in my mailbox threatening fines, even accusing me of hoarding water during a drought. It was so absurd, I didn't even bother arguing. Her supporters dwindled. People started making memes, calling her Pool Karen. Cookouts turned into whispered strategy sessions, folks picking sides. She wasn't done, though. She tried another protest outside my fence, maybe a dozen people chanting "Share the pool," until someone shouted, "Didn't the sheriff already shut this down?" And the whole thing dissolved into awkward silence. By then, I'd beefed up my defenses. Industrial padlock, motion lights, cameras everywhere. The next time Karen tried to sneak in, she was caught in a flood of light, scurrying away while I watched on my phone, sipping a cold lemonade. Her final move? The big one. She started blasting out flyers and social media posts, promising a community pool day, listing my address, claiming she'd gotten HOA approval. I knew it was coming, so I invited Martin and the other board members to stop by. When her crowd arrived and hit that locked gate, Karen's performance fell apart. Martin stepped up and announced loud and clear, "The HOA has nothing to do with this pool. This is private property." The crowd dispersed, angry and embarrassed. Karen tried one last meltdown, shrieking at Martin, at me, at anyone who would listen. But the sheriff showed up and warned her she was out of chances. After that, the neighborhood finally exhaled. People apologized for getting caught up in her nonsense. Martin shook my hand and told me he'd never seen someone hold their ground so calmly. Even Karen's few remaining friends started fading away. But Karen, she just couldn't quit. The next week, I got served a lawsuit. She claimed my pool was public easement. My lawyer nearly laughed when I showed him the paperwork. We showed up in court, Karen flailing with her crumpled flyers, me holding a neat stack of deeds and permits. The judge didn't even take 5 minutes to toss it out and warn her about wasting the court's time. You'd think that would be the end of it, right? But Karen's obsession only got nastier. She started tossing trash over my fence at night, broken glass in the pool, food wrappers, you name it. My cameras caught it all. The sheriff came by, gave her one last warning, but by now she was beyond reason. I decided not to let her misery win. Threw a pool party for a few close neighbors, folks who'd supported me all along. We laughed, grilled burgers, swam, while Karen sat across the street, fuming. She shouted a few things, nobody cared. Kids laughed and splashed louder. That night, I looked out at the moonlight shimmering on the water, feeling the kind of relief you only get after a storm's passed. Karen had thrown everything she had at me. Lies, police, lawyers, public shaming, sabotage. All I did was hold the line, Stay patient, and never stoop to her level. And when the last of the guests left and the street got quiet again, I realized something. My pool was still mine. My peace was still intact. The war was over, and all it had really taken was a padlock, some patience, and letting Karen bury herself with her own pride. But here's the kicker. How many of us have a Karen in our lives? Someone who can't stand not being in control. Someone who'll twist any rule, any situation, just to get their way? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Where do you stand on community, on property rights, on standing your ground when someone comes for what's yours? Let's hear your stories, because I promise you, you're not alone.